Everybody, welcome to my channel, Be Free Now with Maria. So today I'm going to start out with this deck, The Four Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz, and I'm going to pick the card on top because I've already shuffled the deck, and it says, assume nothing. Love that. In any kind of relationship, we can make the assumption that others know what we think, and we don't have to say what we want. We assume they're going to do what we want because they know us so well. If they don't do what we want, we feel hurt and think, how could you do that? How could you do that? You should know. So that's so interesting, and so true. We assume that others know, and this is for many reasons, but it's almost like it makes me think of something we do to subconsciously get ourselves off the hook as well. In other words, we have needs and we are uncomfortable, not used to, prefer not to, say what it is that we need. And we think they should know so that we don't have to say it or ask for it. And this is something, right, that it doesn't make us defective or bad people, but it's something that we want to pay attention to because people don't necessarily know what we need. And if we don't ask, then we are not going to necessarily get what we need in that moment. And the other piece is that, right, there's a part that is ours, and then there's a piece that's theirs in relation to our needs. So, right, we have a need, we can ask for something, but there are some needs that we meet for ourselves, right? And then there are other needs that we can ask someone, for something or to help us in some way and so forth, or we can express our needs and then, they'll get met in some way if they're able to do that in that moment. But we have a responsibility to be able to ask and to work on that if that is something that we struggle with, because everybody's going through something, and even if they know us well, sometimes they're just not able to in that moment show up the way we want them to or we prefer them to, because they are themselves going through something and are not in the space, right, to meet our need in that moment. That's not to say that if we asked, they wouldn't make themselves available or be able to show up differently for us, but they may not necessarily do that right off the bat. So it is our responsibility, right, to be able to ask and to work on that, right, to work on our difficulty with it if that's something, right, that's a problem for us. But there's something else that I took in the back of my head here. It says, it's this assumption, right, that people should know. And when I said earlier that it is, a subconscious way of getting us off the hook, right? It's this idea that if they know, then it's easier for us. In other words, we don't have to do the work. But the reality is that it is not necessarily easier for us if we don't take the time to work on meeting our needs or expressing our needs. It's not, on the surface, it seems like it would be easier if they just knew, or they, and they showed up the way we wanted them to. But when we, right, don't give ourselves the opportunity to express ourselves and to learn new things and to bring ourselves out of our uncomfort or discomfort, right? Like, in other words, it's uncomfortable for us to be able to, let's say, express ourselves or to ask for what we need. So we try to avoid that. But what we do is that we leave ourselves wanting and frustrated. and it just interrupts, right, our relationships, because we start feeling yucky inside, and then we start acting out in some way, shape, or form, or we see them through negative lens. And then that creates, right, a dynamic for us that is, it's negative, but it's hurtful to us, because ultimately, right, what do we want? We want to have connections. We want to feel good, and we want to feel good in our relationships. And if we're not expressing what we need, and we're making the assumption that they should know, then we're not really holding ourselves accountable, and we're asking for someone to always know exactly what it is, or to always be available for us. And it's just not a realistic expectation, nor is it, for someone to have that of us, right? In other words, we would feel uncomfortable if someone was assuming, right, that we should know what they need and always be there, right, to meet that need. It's unrealistic, because we know, right, that even with all of our good intentions, that sometimes we're caught up in our own zone. We're caught up in our own stories and our own lives, and we're not necessarily, right, fully present or fully able to meet their need exactly, as they want us to do that. So it's not a realistic expectation, and we want to also factor in, right, that we want to take responsibility. If we have a need, get in touch with what that need is, and then, right, ask for it. And when I talk about get in touch with what that need is that if we're feeling uncomfortable inside, or we have a need, or we have a desire, right, and that need isn't getting met, right? That person isn't showing up the way we want them to. They aren't doing what we would prefer, or saying what we would prefer in a way, right? That and in a way that would make us feel better, or more. When I say better, more supported, or more loved, or more cared for, or something like that. Then, right, we want to remember that to notice that we are frustrated, or that we are uncomfortable, or that we are disappointed, or that we are feeling yucky in some way. And we want to take the time to notice that. And I'm thinking journaling, right? This is why I love journaling. It's like, sometimes it's like, oh, I'm feeling yucky, and we may not be able to put it into words, or we are able to put it into words, but there's more to it. So we can take the time to just journal it, right? Or we can close our eyes and kind of sit with it, whatever works. But journaling is just a nice way to kind of like just get it out and not hold ourselves back in any way, and keep our thoughts, on paper, so that if we're like, wait, we want to reference something, cross-reference something, whatever it is, right? We have that paper with us, and it allows us to just put out what it is, right, that we're feeling, or what is it that we need. And when we do that, right, then we are able to make these connections and ask, right? All of a sudden it's like, oh, I know what it is. And then we can ask, and not make the assumption that they should know, and only expect, right, for them to be able to show up the way we prefer them to, as opposed to us showing up for ourselves and asking for what it is that we need. All right, so before I end or go any further, I want to pick a word from my bag of words and see what else I'm inspired to share. Let's see. All right. Oh, I got 2 words. Okay. Oh, gratitude and achieve. So that's interesting. Gratitude and achieve. We do want to achieve, and this is gratitude. We want to achieve success. We want to achieve success in our relationships. In order to achieve that success, right, we have to be more self-aware. If we're not, then we can't really achieve what we want. We're just going to stay in that assumption phase and that frustrated phase, and not cultivate what it is that we want. But with gratitude, it's interesting that this word should come out, because when we think of gratitude, it's like, oh, be grateful for what we have. But more than just what we have, right, is gratitude for our emotions. In other words, the good ones, or the ones that make us feel good. When I say the good ones, because there really aren't any good or bad ones, they all teach us something, right? So the ones that make us feel good and the ones that don't. When we have gratitude, right, and we take a moment to say, I'm feeling frustrated right now, but this is a good thing because I know there's something that I can learn from this, right? So it's not a good thing because it feels good. It's a good thing because I know there's something I can learn from this. Then we're opening ourselves up to learning, as opposed to just feeling frustrated because we're sitting in our dirty diaper in that moment. It's like we are recognizing this isn't all bad. It doesn't feel good, but it's not all bad because it's giving me something. This opens up an opportunity for me. And this opportunity helps me grow. This opportunity helps me have more of what I want and to create and to establish relationships or situations or conditions that feel more in alignment with what is it that I need. So when we have this gratitude for all of our emotions, right, we can benefit from all of them and learn to, I'm going to say yes, enjoy all of them. And I know it doesn't feel good when we're feeling yucky, but at this point in my life, I am going to say enjoy, because every time I sit with a yucky feeling, I learn. And every time I learn something about myself, I am that much more freer and better for it. So yes, a part of me at this point does somewhat enjoy. In other words, I don't want to run away from it at all. As a matter of fact, it's like, okay, what's going on here, right? So now I'm more curious. Now I want to come in and find out more so that I can achieve what it is that I want. Because I have needs. We all have needs. And there's no reason for our needs to be unmet. And we have to be active participants in meeting our needs and shift from assumptions. Assumptions, it's just projections, that come from our mind and ultimately, disempower us because we're blaming as opposed to taking self-responsibility. And we want to shift from that mindset and empower ourselves as opposed to disempower ourselves. And we want to remember when it feels really heavy. Well, actually, we want to remember this always, but in particular, right, when we're feeling really stuck or feeling really scared or overwhelmed with our emotions or whatever it is, that we're not alone, right? We can sit down and journal, or we can sit down and invite a divine entity, energy to be with us, right? God, the universe, source, whatever we call it, whatever it is that, right, feels, that aligns with our beliefs. We want to invite that in and work, right? In other words, work through what it is that we're feeling, right? And remembering that we have this support, that we don't have to do this alone. Right? Yes, we have our ability, right, to close our eyes, and go into our mind and work through something. And we have the ability, right, to journal, but we don't have to do it alone. We can invite, right, spirit in to guide us and to show us the way and to help us, right, in learning what we need to learn in that moment for our own growth and for the improvement of our emotional state and all of our relationships. So we are not alone and we don't have to do it alone. So it's important to always remember that, but in particular in those moments, if we're running away from our feelings or anything uncomfortable or feeling overwhelmed by them, tap in, ask for help, and don't do it alone because you don't have to. All right, I'm going to end with that. I hope that this video helps you in some way. If it did, please hit the like button and subscribe to my channel so that you could be notified when I upload further videos. If you want to find out more about the work that I'm doing, there's some information down in the description down below. And I'm going to end with that. So have a beautiful day. Bye for now.